Hey, St. John's families, Curtis Wudtke here, principal at St. John's. Last night we had the parent meetings, 5 and 6:30 in our sanctuary, and it was great to see a lot of you there. And if you were there, you probably don't need to watch this video. But we had a lot of people that couldn't make it, and I wanted to send out a video just that explains some of the things that we talked about and invite you to give us feedback as well. So this is a little bit long. I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible, but I just want to give you an understanding of what you missed at those meetings. So we started off just talking about how this school year is going and some of the things that are happening. I talked about that we're off to a good start. We've got 390 students. We've got some of our grade levels that are full. Full day preschool, kindergarten, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade are all full. In fact, we have 413 available seats right now, and 390 of them are full. So that's pretty awesome. And so we're thankful for the continued growth. And not only do we have a lot of students, but we have a lot of great students. We're just blessed to work with some wonderful students and good kids. And we have great parents and families that are supporting us in that. So I've been so pleased with the response that we've gotten. And there's always, things to work through, but it's just been really, really positive start to the school year from our viewpoint of working with both students and families. Talked a little bit about Soar. It's an acronym that we're using here for strive to do your best, strive for your best, offer glory to God, act responsibly, and respect everyone and everything. And so we're talking about that and doing some things with that, and excited about where that's going. We're going to have a tool that we're going to use to recognize positive behaviors and things as well. So you'll see more about that. Talked about our walkathon, Eagleathon. That was a huge success. And how most of those monies will go towards future building. And we're also going to use a little bit right away. And we'll talk about that future building in a second. I'm impressed so far with what I'm seeing from MAP scores. MAP is a huge deal to me. I think it's a very impressive program, and it's a great tool for us to use, but we have to use it the right way. And so you'll hear more about the MAP testing that 1st through 8th grade does in parent-teacher conferences and different things. We test 3 times a year in the fall, winter, and spring. I'm going to dive into that data. Eventually, I'll send you out a information about where our school stands, which really isn't the easiest thing to do with MAP, because MAP is all focused on individual student growth. How is this student growing and succeeding? So that's what I like about it, but there's still ways to look at the data to say how we're doing as a school. We talked about just the success we've had with fall sports. I'm just really pleased with our faculty and staff and how they're coming together. The fun days, the national days that we've had. Overall, I just think it's a really good start to the school year. Yes, we've had some bumps, and we acknowledge that as well. I think Reveal Math is a wonderful tool that we're using for kindergarten through 5th grade, but the transition was rough, and I think it's getting better. We've changed a lot of things that we're doing, and we're continuing to work on that. But I take the blame for that transition. And we talked about the 5th grade being over at our East building and how that's going. And that wasn't the easiest transition either, but it seems to be working well and going well for us. We also talked about looking forward to things this school year. And I just got done with a meeting with a group of teachers that are coming together to look at our English language arts and reading curriculum. We're doing a lot of good. The teachers are doing a lot of good things, but it's very scattered and very pieced. And so we need a program that really flows through kindergarten through 8th grade. And so we're looking at what we can do to make sure that our English language arts and reading curriculum provides all those things that students need and has that flow to it. And maybe going with a different curriculum, but we're way ahead of the game. We've learned from the mistakes we made with Reveal, and if we go with something different, we'll choose it in plenty of time to fully explain, to make sure the teachers are fully trained in it, to have all the materials here on time, all of those types of things. We also started these teacher forums. We had our first one last Friday, half day, and then in the afternoon, the teachers came together. That's a mixture of professional development and discussions, helping us all to grow together, learn from each other as a faculty, because we want to continue to strengthen ourselves. Also talked about the idea that I'm trying to expand programs, and so not only is that some athletic type of things, but some other extracurricular clubs and so on and so forth. And I want to take some of those things from our middle school grades and make sure we push it down into the younger grades as well and give those students different opportunities. So you're going to hear more about that as we go through this school year as well. Finally, we're working on getting some better tutoring resources for kids and working with some public school monies and stuff to be able to do that. So hopefully soon we'll have some more to share in terms of some updates in how we can help kids one-on-one and work with them. But the main focus of that discussion was on the future of the school and where we're going. And just to give you a little bit of background, early spring of 2021, we formed what we called a growth committee. Of course, that was way before I was here, but that committee met. I wasn't familiar with that committee, but they met for over a year and then shared those results. And those results, we're talking about, obviously we need to build if we're going to continue growing, and what does that look like? And they looked at all kinds of different ways to do that, both here on our campus and off our campus, other sites, and so on and so forth. And that growth committee came back with recommendations and different things, and that resulted also in the many of you have seen the floor plans and drawings that the architect had for us. They're hanging around the building here, and they were at the auction last spring, and different things like that. And so I'm really thankful for that growth committee and all the work that they did. Well, that committee has been disbanded, but it's now developed into two different committees. There's a development committee and a building committee. So the development committee is about raising funds, because whatever we build, we're going to need to pay for it. And so how do we raise the funds to be able to do that? And then the building committee is just that. What are we going to build? What can we do? And of course, those two things go hand in hand, because of course we'd like to build those drawings from the architect. The only problem is that's 50,000 square foot at about $300 a square foot. That's $15 million, and that's just not feasible. And so we're looking at, phasing in different steps of square footage. And we're looking at, is there different types of construction and different things that's not going to cost us $300 a square foot. And so there's a lot of those pieces that are happening there. The reason we had the parent meetings is because just a few weeks ago, we had a voters meeting here at St. John's Congregation, and only 15% of our students are members of our church as well. And so we really are a community school. We serve lots of families from all over the place, and that's good. That's what we want. But we're also owned and operated by our church here, our congregation. So we went to the congregation and asked them to approve 3 different things. First one was pretty simple. Our lot that we have that is between, I'm pointing at it like you can see, sorry, but it has between 1st and 2nd Street and between Charleston and Broadway. And we have that full block there where playground is, or soccer field, those types of things. Well, there's actually an alley that runs through the middle of that, on the books anyway, that the city still owns technically, because that block was designed for houses facing Charleston, houses facing Broadway, and an alley down the middle. So we are asking the city to vacate that and to hand that over to us. In addition, we're ask the congregation if we could ask the city as well to do the same with 2nd Street, because 2nd Street right here between Charleston and Broadway is right between our 2 pieces of property, and we'd like for the city to vacate that, and they'd still get an easement to it because there's water lines and stuff that run underneath it, but we would close it as a public street. We could still use it for car line and different things, but it would just provide a sense of safety. It would provide some different access for us to be able to use it in different ways. And then we even talked about First Street. And First Street is between our property, our field there, and the green space, the garden and the green space that's owned by First Presbyterian. And so our congregation said, yes, let's go ahead and petition the city. We've had some conversations with some people at the city behind the scenes, vacating the alley. No problem, that's going to happen. We just got to go through the formal steps. Not sure about 2nd and First Street, but we're going to make that request. And we've got some people working on that now. The second thing we asked our congregation is to give us a green light to move forward with building. And not necessarily putting a time frame on it, not necessarily putting on a description of what we're going to build, but the idea that we're out of space. Our 5th grade is over at First Presbyterian. We know we're going to double 6th grade, we're going to double 7th grade, 8th grade over the next 3 years, and stuff. So we need, and we're using some spaces right now that really aren't big enough for us to maximize class size and different things. So we know we need to build. And again, the congregation said, yes, let's move forward with that. The third thing we asked about was starting a high school, because there's been a lot of discussion about that, adding grades 9 through 12 to our school, but the congregation has never said, yes, that is one of our goals. And so we asked them about that, and they said, yes, that is one of our goals, and it made that official. So we're looking at that, and of course that affects what we might build and everything as well. So that approval of those things at our voters committee, on our voters meeting, really gave the green light to the development committee and the building committee to move forward. And they're moving forward at a fast pace. They're meeting 2-3 times a week. They've got some subgroups. The building committee is rather small. It's pastor and I, a couple of teachers, a member of our trustees here at the church. And so it's a fairly limited, a person from our school board. As we talk about, we would love to have 50,000 square foot and a whole lot of stuff, but what do we really need right now? And the classroom space and those types of things, and how can we work with builders and potential to come up with that design and get that phased in and make all of that happen. So that building committee is moving forward. We've already started talking to some builders to get some ideas and to get some feedback. That design that the architect put together for us isn't friendly in terms of phases and those types of things. And so we really can't use that design. So we're looking at some other things there and moving forward with that process. Then the development committee is also working, and the development committee actually has 15 members, members from our church, but also a number of school families as well that are coming together for that. And they've already looked at making a list of who we could ask to support this project and looking at how we go about funding all of this. We project that by the end of this school year, we will have about $1 million, maybe a little bit more, in the bank specifically for this project. But $1 million today in construction doesn't buy you a whole lot. And so, how much can we raise? How much could we mortgage? How much? All those types of things have to be a part of that conversation. And then, of course, again, the idea of a high school. We don't know how quickly we could start a high school because there's a small chance, there's a chance that we could already start next fall in August of 23. But we're not sure if that's the right move or not because there's so many other factors going on yet that we just haven't been able to determine. So we probably won't be able to make a decision on that till after the first of the year, but it's something we're talking about and looking at. And if we don't make for August of 23, then maybe August of 24 or something else. We're just not sure yet. But we do know that when we do start the high school grades, we want a traditional high school experience for our kids. And so, of course, done in a Christian setting, just like our school is now. It's a traditional school setting, with curriculum and all the things that we do, but it's obviously with faith at the center of everything we do, with Christ as the center. And so we want the same thing in high school. We want to be able to have all the different subjects and classes and teachers in the classrooms and extracurricular activities and sports and all those types of different things to have a true a traditional educational setting for that high school as well. So that we do know for sure. And I bring that up because I know there's some startups in our area that aren't necessarily traditional. It's a lot of online stuff. It's a lot of work at your own pace type of things. That's not what we're looking at all. With that being said, you got to think outside of the box with this. And so as we start this, we're not going to be able to have everything immediately. And do we start with just freshmen and add the grade on each year? Probably the way we'll go, simply because of space and different things. So that is part of the conversation and looking at what we build as well. And with builders, how much, the idea is, how much can we raise? So how much does it cost per square foot? So then how many square feet can we build and what can we include in that? And so there's all these pieces that we're working rather quickly to try to bring together and make some of those determinations. So that's a lot of what's happening. And so you're going to hear more from us about what are the things that you want us to know? What are if we started this high school, would you use that? What are the things that are important to you that you're not seeing at St. John's right now? And we just want to continue to, and we got some feedback on that from people, but please feel free to email me if you have any thoughts about that. I kept asking the question is, what is it that you want us to remember as we're going through this process? What is it that you want us to know as we're looking at building? Now, with all of that being said, time frame. What is the time frame for all of this? Well, I think the earliest we could start an official drive or campaign, whatever you want to call it, for funding for the project is going to be after the first of the year. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen behind the scenes right now and soon, but it'll be after the first of the year at earliest that we would launch a campaign and work on that. So, and we don't know what the goal of the campaign is. The development committee tentatively thinking we might be able to raise $4 million, which is a nice chunk. And so that's a possibility. We know we couldn't mortgage $4 million. So certainly much less than that in terms of a type of mortgage that we could take on. So we're looking at different options and trying to figure all of that out. But if we start a campaign after the first of the year, the earliest we would break ground would really be next summer. And so at the earliest, breaking ground in June of 23, which that means the earliest we would have a building is probably August of 24. Because you're talking about a 12 to 14 month build, maybe a little bit less than that. But depending on the size of what we're doing, of course, the scope of what we're doing. But that's the general time frame that we're hearing from builders and stuff is that we might be able to be in a building by August of 24. Well, that means not only this school year, but next school year, we're not going to have an additional building. And how are we going to manage space if we add double sixth grades and so on and so forth, and even start with the high school? How are we going to make all of that happen? So there's a lot of those discussions that are happening as well. How do we get from point A to point B and make all of that work? What we do know is that we're planning on building here. We've looked at other options, and what we do know is we plan on building in our vacant lot here, our playground soccer field lot is where we plan on building. There will be a building there that would be a first phase that we'd be able to expand. We'd specifically design it to be able to put on a phase 2, phase 3, that we would have parking in front of that towards Charleston. At Charleston Road, and so those things we have determined for sure. That also means, obviously, we're cutting into our green space. So we're also in conversations with First Presbyterian. We feel good about that partnership, and they do have that green space that they have absolutely no plans for right now. In fact, we've tried to buy it, but they're not interested in selling. But we're talking about a really lengthy lease with them, the potential to have that space as a potential playground and a green space and different things for us to be able to use fencing it in and all of those types of things. So There's a lot happening, and I'm seeing already on my time here that I'm about 20 minutes in, and we spent about an hour with each group last night. So I want to wrap it up, but just these are all the conversations and the things that are happening. You're going to hear more and more about this over the upcoming months, about the idea of launching a campaign, about the idea of determining what we want to build and can build based on finances, and determining what that looks like. One more thing I wanted to mention, as I'm going through this, we're going to build here, and a building will probably be designed to hold grades 4 through 8, eventually 4 through 12. Of course, we don't want 4th graders intermixing with 12th graders, so it'll be designed in a way that they'll be separate, but that's how it'll be. Our school building right now, the old newspaper building, the school building, right now is pre-K through 2nd. It would probably only be pre-K through 1st, maybe only even pre-K and kinder, and that the classrooms in our church building here would be 2nd and 3rd grade, probably, maybe 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, to use our best spaces for those grades, and then 4th through 8th would move into a new building. So that's those are the things that we've really kind of determined already. We're building on our property here, and that's the grades that we're thinking that need to fit into that new facility. So that's it. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. You can always email me or give me a call. Send out my cell number again as well with this video. And if you have any ideas, again, things that you would like for us to know, things you'd like for us to keep in mind as we're going through this process, feel free to share your thoughts on that. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I will see you soon. Thanks.